AM Crush, Bob and Paul. Congratulations on the new album, Miles Apart on Records. I've been listening to it for the last couple days. Fantastic. I mean,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Awesome.
You
Good to
know,
hear.
so many songs I love. There's nothing I don't like. I like every track. Naturally some better than others, and we'll go into the whole album. So this way people get to know a little bit about the album, about you guys and stuff like that. So let's
Awesome.
first start with Bob. Um, you first came into music with Malone, is that true, in the 80s?
Actually, it was Finalia.
Uh-huh.
And then we hooked up with the management company that managed Les Paul.
Right.
And then they said, well, Finale's not going to work. So Finalia went to Malone,
Okay.
And then that's when I actually had the management company. They hooked us up with Kramer guitar endorsements and everything with the Malone band. And that's when they did the song with Richie Zambora from Bon Jovi.
Right, yeah. Wow, wow.
So,
I mean, looking through the old East Coast rockers and stuff like that, you're basically on like every page, like you're all over the place.
we had a short run where we were, peaking, but obviously everybody here knows the way the industry went.
Right.
Grunge came along and kicked us in the teeth.
That's it. That's it. Just like so many
Yep,
other bands and stuff
yep,
like that.
yep.
So you also joined Farcry in 2021.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep,
Cool, cool, cool. And Farcry Balance CD was the first one that you sung on, right?
that's correct.
Cool, cool. And yours truly did the inner pictures for the Far
Yep,
Cry thing.
yep,
Me and Mark Ballo,
yep.
definitely, over at Roosevelt, field over there. And actually, you still use the picture as your Facebook
Absolutely.
picture, you
Yep,
know. So
yep.
it's pretty cool. Cool, cool.
Actually, they used the picture in they did a front page ad for me and Paul in the local paper.
Uh-huh.
Use the pictures again. That's why you got
Wow.
the photo credits, you know?
Cool. Wow. Great, man. I got to get a copy of that.
All right,
So
cool.
cool, cool. Paul, tell me a little bit about your background.
I mean, similar to Bob's, really. Played
Uh-huh.
the Sunset Strip for a bunch of years. Things were going great. Got in a band, ended up in the record plant. Things seemed like they were going to go, and then the whole thing shifted and it changed.
Right, yeah.
So worked for Roland and Boss Musical Instruments for a bunch of years. Took a little time kind of away from music just because that was such a demanding thing.
Right.
Um, and then got back into it. And then the way Bob and I connected is I did the Walk the Walk record,
Uh-huh.
and both of us were on AOR Heaven.
Right, yeah.
So,
Wow.
so I had heard, and I was familiar with Far Cry actually prior to Bob even.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually went to, I've, friend Robert Marcello who plays in Danger Danger,
Right.
or did play in Danger Danger. In any
Uh-huh.
case, went to see him in Connecticut and Far Cry played. So, got a chance to see them. So kind of followed the band a little bit and then saw, that Bob sang on that record. Thought he did a great job.
Uh-huh.
So connected with Bob and said, hey, be great, for us to join forces and try and do something.
Cool, cool, cool. And you're also in Dark Mile, which is another band that's phenomenal. I love them guys
Thanks.
too.
Thanks.
So
Yeah, that's another thing. I've Tracy G, who some people probably
right.
know, from,
Uh-huh.
Dio and all of that. We've been friends for 30 plus years.
Right,
Just,
yeah.
a long, long time. And I always just felt like, he was doing the heaviest of the heavy stuff. And so we tried to lean a little more melodic direction.
Uh-huh.
But in any case, yeah, you know what? But Bob and I, we really connected on this one and felt like, we came up with a good set of tunes.
Cool,
The
cool, definitely.
partnership is absolutely excellent. The
Uh-huh.
writing is it's focused. It's right on point.
Right, yeah, definitely. And Robert, how's your relationship with Pete Fry?
Uh, haven't really talked to Pete much, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Right,
I kind of bowed out of Far Cry.
right,
There could have been a little bit of, hard feelings there. I just wasn't into the local scene, just grinding away.
right.
Listen, I did it. We all did it. When I was 18 years old, we played Stone Pony. It was a little bit different back then.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
once, I figured it's a different approach.
Right.
As we're later in life, it's about the writing, it's about the product, going out and trying to get a following.
Right.
If one of these songs exploded, we'll be out there.
Right. Yeah.
That's reality. But if it doesn't really go that way, where you don't really have to kill that live, day in and day out grind,
Right.
I think this sits well with me much better. You
Definitely.
know?
Definitely. Yeah. And now Pete's a country guy now, right?
Yeah, they're doing they hooked up
Yeah.
with George Becker. They were in actually the band backed Jaded Past. That was
Right.
his rock band, and then
Exactly.
he moved towards the country. But
Yeah.
I think Leo plays in the band, the bass
Right.
player. The other
Uh-huh.
guitar player played for a short time, but that's the way they're going. They're going after the country route. Listen, I love country music too, but my
Right.
soul, my heart and soul is right here. You
Cool.
know.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's always texting me, asking me to come to the show, but I'm just not into country, so I wouldn't be happy going. Even though
Yeah,
he's my
yeah,
friend, Pete's my friend, and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
I just can't get into it.
yeah,
Like your album, I could get into. So
yeah.
it's definitely cool. Tell me, you did a video for every song. Was that
Yes.
stressing at all, or was that okay?
Well, obviously, I guess put we the first song we did was Danger Danger. Paul had hooked up with a company that did it.
Right.
And then after they did the video, I was like, well, listen, the video is great, but it's generic. You know what I
Right.
mean? And me doing all the lyrics, I said, we had a conversation. Paul, how'd they do this?
Right.
And we had that conversation. We found out, how they did it. I said, hey, listen, I'll take it on. And
Right.
I signed up for the website and I just pounded away. It
Right.
took a while to do the videos. I mean, the
Right.
biggest thing is compiling all the little bits of tracks together
Right.
before putting them together. So the research and putting them into a folder, it was quite time consuming. But listen, it's our interpretation. You know what I mean? It's
Right. Yeah.
nobody else's. It's ours. You know?
Yeah, I have to hand it to Bob. I mean, it was a tremendous amount of work. There's just no
Right.
It
question
was.
about it.
It was.
And it's really cool that there's a visual that goes along with these songs now. So if people want to go to the YouTube channel, there is a lyric video for each and every tune.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, I think it takes it to the next step. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Cool. 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 Now, how'd you guys hook up with Eonian?
With who?
With Eonian Records, the record label?
No, we're not with
We released it as an independent.
yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Wow.
which
Yeah.
is which faces its own challenges because
Yes.
let's face it, getting through to the masses out there, there's just so much music that gets released all the time. But
Right.
I am familiar with the guy that owns Eonian. I've talked to him before.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Cool. So was it stressing doing everything on your own independently?
The production aspect of it, all of that, getting that done. Obviously, Bob did all the lyric video stuff. It's really just reaching people. That's really the
Yeah.
biggest thing. And I think these days, even record companies are having a difficult time figuring out, how do you promote music today?
Right.
Because obviously CD sales aren't what they used to be. I mean, vinyl actually outsells CDs now,
Right.
which
Yeah.
who would have thought that would have happened, but it does.
Right.
And so as a result, streaming is such a huge part of things, and promoting streaming is a challenge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. So let's go down track by track and tell me a little bit about each song. Let's start off with Danger Zone, which is like one of my favorite tracks on the album. It seems like a lot of people love that song and stuff like that. And I love the video with that guy who does reaction.
Yeah.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So like I watched that with him. He's popping away and I love that track. Tell me a little bit about it.
I came up with the idea musically, I guess, from an instrumental point of view, and then sent it to Bob and said, hey, see what you can do with this. songs are such an interesting thing. Sometimes lyrics come first, sometimes music comes first. In this case, with Bob and I just knew Bob had a lot better handle on things lyrically than I do. So, I basically tossed it to him and said, see what you can do.
Yeah, I kick it around, do some different things with it. What I love the best about that track is the way it starts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's
It
really
just
good.
gets you right from the get-go with just the lyrics and no music yet.
Right.
I think it hits home,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes an impact.
I definitely love that track. There's quite a bit of songs I like. So like, that's just one of the highlights for me. I listened to it a couple of times. I let my wife listen to it a couple of times and back and forth, and we both love it. So
Awesome.
very cool, very cool. Tell me about Ego.
Well, if you look a little bit about if you check watch the video,
Right,
the name says it all. You know what I
right,
mean about ego. You got the guy ripping up the contract. People get big headed. You know, be good to the people that you meet on the way up because those are people are you going to see on the way down. You know what I mean? You try to capture that whole you know don't have an ego situation. That's listen. I try to exaggerate every little bit of the lyrics so
mhm,
they can kind of get through. You
right,
take a little bit of piece of you
mhm,
and then you embellish. You know what
right,
I
yeah,
mean? That's pretty much how I approach some of the lyrics and stuff.
right,
You just take it to the next level, just embellish it and just kind of see where it's gonna go.
right.
But
Yeah,
again, Paul did a great job. Send me the tracks. We fly him back and forth. Obviously, he's in California and I'm in New Jersey, miles apart. You know what
uh-huh,
I mean?
right. Yeah.
But it's a great partnership.
Cool. How
And I
much?
and Bob, the ego part of it actually fits really well because if you really look at a lot of the bands from the 80s and all of that, talking about kind of going on their way down,
Yes,
well,
yes,
let's face it, a lot of these guys now are doing, the fair circuit and that kind of stuff. And,
yeah,
probably a pretty humbling experience, I would
yeah,
imagine. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
cool that they can still get out there and do it,
right.
but it does keep your ego in check.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How much can a ego hurt a band?
Breaks them up.
That's
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to deal with the guys in the band, a lot of times you got to deal with girlfriends and wives.
Right.
We've all been there.
Uh-huh.
You have some bad experiences where one guy just runs amok, think he's a little bit better. That puts it all into check, you know what I mean? And then
Right. Yeah.
everybody's got to, deal with that. Listen, I've been in a lot of different situations, and I'm sure Paul has too. You know, I'm at a point in my life where it's about the music. It's not about anything else.
Right.
The way I look at it is the biggest thing for me is I would just love this music to be heard by as many people as possible. I'm not
Right. Yeah.
looking for anything other than that. I don't know about Paul, but that's where
Yeah.
I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm really, really proud of this record. I really am.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I just love it to be heard.
Cool. Yeah.
Agreed.
Definitely. When I'm doing my photography or reviewing something, or the magazines I work for, I mean, the guys who did have an ego, yet I still remember them to this day, and I rather not go,
Yeah,
to the show or whatever. It's just like that's in my head now. Since you
yeah,
treated some fans like crap,
yeah.
who wants that? You know?
The fans are what make you. So you got to be, no matter what level you're at, you got
Right.
to be good to people. You got to be good to the fans.
Yeah.
Without the fans, you're nothing. You're
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. You
You know,
know?
I got to tell you, I go on this Monsters of Rock cruise every
Right.
year.
Uh-huh.
It's really interesting because the band's really very accessible,
Uh-huh.
and it's really interesting. Most of them are really good about interacting with fans and talking, but every once in a while, you meet somebody talking about egos,
Uh-huh.
who's just too good to connect with people and stop and take a picture or whatever. And I just think these are the people that got you where you're at.
Yep.
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
in the world would you treat them this way?
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
and some of those people are not invited back on that cruise for that reason.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
had that conversation after the last cruise you were on. You were
Yep.
telling me, I'm not going to mention any names, but there was a couple of artists that
Uh-huh.
were that had that ego, you know?
Yeah, for them, it's still 1983.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Definitely, definitely. Tell me about the next track, Run.
Well, Run, there's a funny story that goes with this.
Okay.
And that they actually covered this in the front page of the paper.
Right.
That you know, because when I was being interviewed, you know, we had a little conversation. Obviously, Paul sent the tracks. Okay, I came up with the you know the idea of domestic violence.
Right.
The first run through was a little bit more graphic, and
Uh-huh.
he's laughing. It's funny because I did the tracks. I sent
Right.
them back to him, and and Paul and his wife listened to the track, and they were like, "Hey, wait a minute!" He goes, "People listen to rock and roll to get away from their problems,
Right.
because it was a little bit more graphic and stuff." And I was like, "Well, we had the conversation back and forth, and that's what a good partnership does." And we came up with a compromise. I did a little bit of a rewrite, and
Right.
I just softened it a little bit. But I'm going to tell you, I think it hits home. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that, that could be a public service announcement without a doubt. You know what I mean? That could, and then Paul and actually his wife said after the track was done, she said,
Right.
quote, "This can actually save someone's life." Am I
Wow.
right,
Cool. Yeah.
Paul?
Absolutely true. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a super important message. There's just no question about it.
Yeah.
And it was just a little bit heavy-handed, at least the first time around. But I think Bob did a really good job of I don't know, softening it really isn't the right way to say it because it's not, it's such a difficult subject. But at the same time, I think
Yes.
it made it just a little easier for the message to get through without it seeming
Yeah.
too
Right.
graphic and too heavy.
Right.
Next track, Merry-Go-Round. Tell me a little bit about that.
Again, Paul, great hook, sent it. The way I look at merry-go-round, that's life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Stress, round and round. You know what I mean? It's you know that's everyday. That's everyday life. You know
Right.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Work, going to work, this bills, this that. Life's a merry-go-round. Sometimes you just want to just say stop. I had enough. So that's where that idea really came from.
Well, cool.
That's where I was going with that.
I could understand that. That's why I retired.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know.
I hear you.
So I get to stay home, do interviews all day.
That's cool. That's cool.
Cool. Let's go to Cupid. Tell me a little bit about that.
You want to take this one or what?
Well, I mean, it's kind of it's going to sound like a broken record, but I came up with a hook
Yeah.
and said it to Bob and basically said, see what you can do with this one. And he came up with those lyrics.
Right. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Very cool. Let's go to Shout It Out Loud. At first I thought it would have been a Kiss cover.
Yeah.
Because
Right?
I said I better
And
listen to this.
I think we actually discussed this. What do we
Yes,
call
we
the
did.
song? Because we could have called it something else, but I just liked the fact that says it all. And I like the lyric video for that tune a lot too. I think he came out great.
Yeah,
Right.
that's your concert type live song where you would want the audience to get involved and just chant it out. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
That's fan participation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Definitely.
That really gets that sends the message for a live song.
Right, yeah. How about the next track, Missing You?
Well, that one again, Paul sent the tracks, and then I had a conversation with him, and I said, how about if we make it a little bit personal, and it's about family members. Anybody can relate to it, but
Right.
actually, the people in the video are Paul and my family members that passed away,
Right.
and I think anybody can kind of relate to it. You know what I mean? It's
Right. Yeah.
those that are gone, you're missing them. I mean, it's a part of life. It
Yep.
actually says it in the song, some will leave, some will die. That's it. It's a part of life, but doesn't make it any easier.
Cool. And Robert, where do you think you do go when you die?
Well, I hope I'm going someplace nice, you know what I mean? Where it's not too hot.
How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm right there with Bob.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's what we all hope for. You try to live life right and do the right thing.
Oh,
Cool.
that'll give us a little segue into Paul and I, we have a bonus track that we didn't release yet.
Right.
Okay. And that one is called The Dash. And
Uh-huh.
it's about, obviously, if you see a tombstone, it's
Uh-huh.
your birth date, the dash, your death date.
Right.
That dash is your whole life. That's
Right.
how you live your life. So, you know, in there, you hope you're going to get to the place where you believe in, whatever religion you are,
Right.
that you did the right thing during your dash. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
But we're gonna wait, I guess, a few weeks or a few months, and we'll see how this record goes, and then we're gonna have a bonus track coming out.
Cool, cool. How about the next track, The Drifter?
Another cool lyric video. Bob did a great job on that one too.
Well, you try to put it in the context. There are people who live their life like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, some of I guess in the chorus, if you listen to the lyrics, it
Right.
says no stress, no phone, no social media, no stress, no social media, no phone. I mean, that'd be great to
Right.
live like that. We're all caught up in the materialistic things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Actually, we had a discussion. Paul came up with a couple of good lines in the song where, it's not about the material things. We got a great big world out there, and everybody's so focused on, oh, I got a nice car, or I got this, I got that. And here comes the drifter, just
Mhm.
drifting through life, no, what you would assume, no stress,
Right.
just working for a meal.
Uh-huh.
That's it. I'm sure the drifter would have some of his own stresses,
Mhm.
but not the ones that we have.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Cool, cool, cool. Next track is a cover from Grassroots and Temptation Eyes. So I guess we're dating ourselves. 1969. That
Yeah,
that song came out. Yeah, it was a big hit.
and
You know.
I'm the one that brought it up. I just
Yep.
thought it would be a cool tune to do. For the longest time, back in my '80s band, we were doing the Sunset Strip.
Right.
We did "Tears of a Clown."
That's a good song too.
Great song.
Right.
And I have to tell you, the other guitar player in the band was actually a little younger than I am. So when I showed him the song, he's like, "I've never heard this tune before." I thought,
Wow.
are you living under a rock? What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
But in any case, love doing those kinds of things. And then we actually had a real horn section play
Uh-huh.
on that song. So, in these days where everybody uses a synth to try and, recreate the horn thing, nothing replaces a real horn section. Real
Right.
horns sound unlike a synthesizer. So, that's a Russian horn section of all things,
Right. Yeah.
which is
Definitely.
the other beauty of being able to work. Bob and I obviously doing what we do over the internet, but with the horn section, I sent them the song, they recorded their files, sent me their files. I raised the faders in my studio and went, yep, that's what that's supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. It's amazing that a song from 1969 could still hold a captive audience to a song that everybody loves, and yet people who don't know it, when they hear it, they love it and they think it's new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
you guys did the cover of this, people might say, that sounds good, and then you tell them it's 1969. Say, well,
Right.
I don't know, So it's a great tune. I love it too.
Great
Thanks.
tune is a great tune,
And
right?
we did need to get a mechanical license, obviously, to put that out there. So,
Yeah.
we did everything the legal way.
Right. Okay. Next track, Father Time. Tell me a little bit about.
Father Time.
Mhm.
He's watching you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yep. He's definitely. You
Yeah,
know.
you're not getting over on Father Time, man. It's just if you listen to the lyrics and stuff, it's like, time is getting away from you. Do the things that really, mean the most to you, obviously family and whatnot. But you know what? Before you know it, one day you're gonna wake up and you're gonna say, where'd that time go? You know what
Right.
I mean?
Definitely.
You know?
Yep.
That's right. Everybody's shaking their head, but it's so true.
Yeah.
you know?
And you won't believe like how you're gonna miss your younger days. Like this year I'll be 67. So like you're saying, man, I
Looking
remember,
good, looking good.
you know, prepare for
No
men
doubt.
helps, you know. So
But I'm gonna guess you feel like I do. You say that number and think, how did I get here?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
'Cause I
definitely.
sure don't feel my age.
Yeah. Until
In
I
the
have to
blink of an eye.
mow the front and back, I can feel it,
Yeah.
you know.
I have to tell you, I asked my dad this one. He must have been, I don't know, 83, 84. And I said, so Dad, when do you feel old? And he said, oh, that doesn't happen.
Uh-huh.
And I said, really? And he said, yeah, your body will remind you occasionally that you're not, young anymore, but
Right.
in your mind, you're still that same guy.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, it makes me feel good.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
well,
yeah, because no one wants to get old.
yeah,
No.
my father-in-law, God rest his soul, passed a few years ago. He used to say to me, don't get old, you're not gonna like it.
Yeah. The only
So
best thing,
now we all say, everybody walks around the house, don't get old, you're not gonna like it. I mean, what's
yeah,
the alternative? You know what I
you have
mean?
no choice. The only thing good about it is once you retire, you get to do whatever you want when you want. You know, that's the best part for me, at least, about retirement. If I don't want to mow the lawn today, I say I'll do it tomorrow. You know, but then I pay for it because the grass is higher. So, definitely. Let's go to the next track, Cold Hearted Woman.
We all been there, right?
Right. Uh-huh. Yeah, definitely.
If you see the video, she's really giving it to him, you know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
It's kind of like a little peek into a one-sided bad relationship where, she's the witch, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Uh-huh.
And he still loves her, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's classic, you
Yeah.
know?
Happens.
It
You know?
happens. It
Yep, it
happens.
happens. Let's go to the last track, which is my second favorite song on the album, the only one. I love how like the lyrics, when you get to the chorus part, really, really hits home for me at least. I love it.
Yeah, Paul gave that one a really heavy hook. Like, you know what
Right.
I mean? The
Uh-huh.
guitar work is driving, it's kind of like back to basics, you know what I mean? With it's just a driving guitar. But, the melodies on top of the drive is what makes the songs, you know what I mean? And I think that one gives us a little bit of a heavier edge on the record, you know what I mean?
Right.
You
Yeah.
try to cover all your bases, you know? We got our ballad, you got the heavier one, you try to cover all the bases, but it's a classic, love song in the sense where, you are the only one, you
Right. Yeah.
know, it,
Yeah.
it says it all.
Definitely. How hard is it to reach out to new fans? I know you have the internet and stuff like that, but back in the day, you sent out press kits and stuff like that. That had to be hard too.
Yeah.
But today's day, I mean, if someone don't go watch your video or go to your website or go to your Facebook, how you reach them?
Well, Bob and I were talking about this, it's almost one fan at a time. I mean,
Yeah,
it really is
that's
tough.
it.
There's no
Right.
question about that. I mean, we are certainly, we have an electronic press kit and we send
Right.
it out to a ton of people and we've got some response. We've got a review on a Russian site of all things.
Right. That's cool.
But at the same time, you don't get 100% response. Not that we would expect that.
Right.
So I think it's just persistence and doing things like this. So we certainly appreciate this opportunity, Brian.
Right.
This helps reach more people, and it's the name of the game.
Right. Yeah.
One fan
Definitely.
at a time.
That's it. So what are your guys' hopes for this album? Let's start with you, Robert, first. What do you hope for?
My hopes is to get it out there and have as many people hear it as possible. Like Paul was saying, we had reviews in Greece, some I guess like you said, Russia. So it's out there. And
Right.
obviously the European market, I think, is a little bit stronger than the
Right.
American market for this type of music over the past several years. So, that's my hopes is to get it out there. I would love to get on a great Spotify
Uh-huh.
playlist or something. But I'm going to tell you what, the self-release is tough, because there's no directions with it. You know what I mean? When we
Right.
were doing it, Paul and I were talking, well, pick a release date. I said, well, just put any date down. Well,
Right.
we put a date down, but we didn't realize we were supposed to wait like a few weeks. We should have put like a 6 week wait down because
Right.
then they traffic that to all podcasts and everything. So
Right.
we really shot ourselves in the foot with that. We missed out on a lot of free publicity because there was no directions. Like you said,
Right.
self-release, you're just running blind, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But I listen, I think we're doing a good job. We compiled some list, we got it out there, we got some social media.
Right.
You know, it's one fan at a time, you know, one podcast, one interview. That's
Uh,
the way to do it. I mean, it's not 1980s anymore. It's different. The
right.
market's smaller for this type of music, you know what I mean?
Uh,
Obviously, you know, we're older. This is our wheelhouse. This is what we grew up with, you know. But, you know, to reach the fans, it's due diligence. You just got to keep at it.
right. Yeah. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm with Bob. Yeah, obviously we want as many people to hear it as possible, and it's a bit of a niche thing these days. Obviously, it's not, if we wanted to go try and make money, we'd do hip hop because that's where,
Yeah.
But I am terrible at that stuff. It just seems like
Right.
everything I try to write seems to kind of lean towards the melodic hard rock thing. So this comes easily, and Bob and I worked well together on it, and obviously we just want to reach as many, and we learned a lot from this independent release. Obviously if we do another one, we have a better feel for how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
And obviously we thought that, there was a great record label out there who could do this for us, but I think Bob and I both, we've had experience with labels, at least,
Yeah.
fairly recently. And I don't know that they can do a lot more than we can do.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
true. We,
I,
we did we did have some interest, and you know we decided that this was the better route to go. I won't mention any names, but
right.
we had some offers, but we felt this is the way to go. You know what I mean?
Right.
We
Yeah.
didn't have to count to anybody. We do how we want when we want.
Right. Yeah. And what's the chance of any vinyl? Tough,
Boy,
right?
tough. I mean,
Yeah.
it obviously it's fairly expensive to do, and what would the demand be like for it? I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't rule it out.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Cool. Cool. So what's the next step for you guys? Any live shows since he's in California or LA and you're in New Jersey? And is there a possibility?
It's always a possibility. I guess my thing would have to be the right situation. I will say, I have talked to Larry on the Monsters of Rock cruise a fair amount, and if something like that, an opportunity like that came about, that would
Right.
be worthwhile doing. Getting in a crappy van and driving across the country and playing in clubs to 30 people.
Yeah.
I think Bob and I are probably both past that.
Yeah. That ship has sailed.
I don't know how it is by you, Paul, but over here it's basically original bands are like mediocre, not talent wise. I mean, bringing in fans to a club compared to tribute bands. Like, so many tribute bands are playing like theaters and stuff like that, like pretty big audiences and stuff. Me particular, I wouldn't go to one of them. I'm not a tribute guy, so I'm not into that. But like, original bands, if I like it, I'll go. What's your feelings on that?
It's absolutely true. And I can even cite an example for you.
Okay.
There's a band called Roxanne. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember Roxanne from the 80s.
Uh,
They're, really, really good band.
right.
Well, the lead singer of that band started something called Boogie Nights.
Uh-huh.
And Boogie Nights is popular because it's kind of rock and disco. It's
Right.
all the disco songs. My wife and I went to Vegas because we liked the band so much.
Right.
Boogie Nights was playing on Friday night. Roxanne was playing on Saturday night. It's the
Right.
same guys, but obviously Roxanne is the original band. Boogie
Right.
Nights is the
Uh-huh.
disco. The disco thing was packed. That club,
Wow.
you could stuff another person in there. The next night, if there was 200 people in that place, I'd be shocked. I
Wow.
mean, it was, and this is a band, that had a major label deal,
Right.
you know, has, George Lynch on the record, has Doug Pinnick on the record. It's just, and you're right, tribute bands seem to be where it's at, and I just have absolutely no interest.
Me neither.
Yeah. I couldn't do it.
Like you're going to do it better than Journey.
Yeah, I know. Not happen.
Yeah.
Not happen. You know. So you guys, it was great talking to you, and congratulations on the album, Miles Apart.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Bob and Paul, would you like to say anything to the fans out there?
Make sure you check us out on social media. Instagram is amcrush_band, and our Facebook page is AM Crush Band. So we're out there. Check us out. Check us out on YouTube. We got all the videos. Love to see, some more likes and shares.
How about you, Paul?
Yep, absolutely. Love to hear from anybody. You can reach us through the Facebook page as well, and we'll have more stuff coming.
Yep.
And check them out on YouTube. They got every song on the album. They got a video, so you can listen to the whole album, enjoy it.
Yeah,
There's great songs on there and stuff like that.
And the issue with that is there's the lyric videos, and also YouTube did a generated just with a still album shot. We're trying to get that merged, but we're really not having much success with CD Baby and YouTube. So right now there's two songs for every song out there. There's
Right.
two places to see it. It's crazy. If you go Google AM Crush Band Ego, it's going to come up with the album cover and then one with the video. And I tell you what, the other ones are getting some hits. Some of them got 200 hits, and then we want to try to get them combined. But just so everybody knows out there, there are lyric videos. There's just not stills.
Cool. Thanks a lot, AM Crush. Thanks a lot, guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Take care.
The opportunity. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.